The people's flag is deepest red, it shrouded off the martyred dead. And ere the limbs grew stiff and cold, their hearts blood died in every fold.
The scarlet red flag has been the symbol of workers' movements for as long as any person can remember. The red symbolizes the blood of the workers that the world is built upon. However, the first time the red flag became a symbol of the proletariat was in 1831 in the Welsh mining town of Merthyr. In 1799, the Act to Prevent Unlawful Combinations of Workmen prohibited the organization of working people to raise wages. Similar to the Supreme Court decision of Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Pullis in 1806 in the United States. Any plot of 2 or more workingmen to raise wages became considered a misdemeanor. These laws were finally repealed in 1824 after waves of strike action across Great Britain. As the ever-expansionist English capitalist system sought more fuel, Wales was made into a sort of industrial colony, providing coal and iron to drive manufacturing in English cities. This extraction of resources and national subjugation exploited Welsh working people in order to support extravagant lifestyles of the English elite. Thus, their national identity as well as their economic class became exploited. This rightful anger swelled in May of 1831, when coal and iron workers employed by William Crauchete in Merthyr Tydfil took to the streets in protest of wage decreases, unemployment, and general exploitation. By the end of the month, the protests spread to the whole area around Merthyr. During this time, red flags dyed using calves' blood became the symbol of their movement. Inspired by the Jacobins during the French Revolution, who used red flags to symbolize the blood of the people's martyrs. Verbal symbols of the movement became kazabara, cheese and bread.
The soldiers had all fled behind a gate. They chanted cheese and bread, and our children must be fed. In the days when Wales rose against the crown, they chanted cheese.
And I, Lord A.R. Brennan, down with the king. The workers occupied Merthyr's debtors' court, took back the stolen items collected as payment, and destroyed the books recording debts. On June 1st, they went to local mines to invite those workers to go out on strike in support, which they did. The British government called out the 93rd Sutherland Highlanders to protect capital. On the 2nd, workers confronted a meeting of local business and political leaders, who were plotting how best to destroy the movement, to demand lower food prices and higher wages. The capitalists and politicians disregarded them and told them to return to their homes. The workers instead attempted to gain entry into the inn where the meeting was being held, and the 93rd fired at them, killing multiple and wounding hundreds. Despite the bloodshed, the proletarians forced the military to retreat to Penydarren House, home of the Crauchete family, owners of the area's iron and coal industries. An estimated 10,000 workers came out in open rebellion, demanding suitable living conditions. By June 4th, the workers had armed themselves and organized into paramilitary formations to defend against the inevitable capitalist counterattack. Symbolically, they capped their flagpoles with loaves of bread drenched in blood. The workers' militia drove off multiple attempts by government cavalry to retake control of the town, and continued the siege of Penydarren House. Fighting continued until June 7th, when government forces retook the town. 24 workers had been killed in the fighting, with hundreds more wounded. 26 people were arrested for their role. Many of them were imprisoned or sent to penal colonies in Australia. Lewis Lewis, leader of the original March on the Inn, was sentenced to death, but his sentence was later commuted to deportation to Australia. Richard Lewis was sentenced to death for stabbing Donald Black, a soldier, in the March on the Inn. Despite the wound to the soldier being non-lethal and Black being unable to identify either Lewis or Richard Lewis. 2nd Earl of Grey Charles Grey was convinced that at least one of the workers should die as an example to others, and so Richard Lewis was publicly hanged in Cardiff on August 13, 1831.
With wages cut again, it was only sensible that then folks took over, shut down the debtors' court. The gentry pulled the wire, told their men to open fire and restore the rule of their estate. But as the night descended and the battle ended, the soldiers had all fled behind a gate. They chanted cheese and bread, and our children must be fed, in the days when Wales rose against the crown. They chanted cheese and bread with a bloody loaf above their heads, when the red flag flew